Therenor, with its daunting landscapes, gargantuan flora, and primordial giants, is a dangerous place for tinier creatures. Yet, in all the untamed vastness of the world, small folk still thrive. But how? Could it be luck? Or do they simply fill a niche? If you were to ask any commoner in Therenor, no matter what quiet pocket of the realm they're tucked away in, they would answer the same. They pray. Today we'll be discussing religion in Therenor, the 6 major spirits that make up the realm's pantheon, and the many ways both small folk and giants alike pay tribute to the world they call home. Through their worship, the people of Therenor establish a spiritual means of communication with the land, believing that by appeasing the realm and its spirits, the wilds will show restraint. Therenor's primary religion finds its base in animism, where everything in nature, both living and inanimate, from the smallest of pebbles to the vast, endless sea, holds a spirit. Of these spirits, a select few have obtained a deity-like status, similarly to the kami in Shintoism. There are 6 major deities worshipped in Therenor known as the Great Spirits, and each is said to claim dominion over one of the world's mighty regions and represent a crucial aspect of life: growth, stability, preservation, resourcefulness, adaptability, and destruction. They're pure neutral forces whose reach among the realm is fluid, often extending and mixing into the domains of their peers, with their ultimate goal to ensure life continues to prosper in Therenor. The Great Spirits rarely intervene themselves on the material plane, though their influence can be felt in all living things. Giants idolize these spirits as a manifestation of the base instincts they feel deep within their ancient souls. And it is common belief among the realm's inhabitants that each true giant was created in the image of their region's spirit. This results in most giants choosing the worship by fully embracing their instincts and embodying their associated ideals. Though some also carve runes, sculpt statues, create artwork, and conduct their own rituals to the rest of Therenor's greater deities. For small folk, most of whom lack the deeper primal connection to the realm that giants have, the Great Spirits are still just as important. The good graces of the realm's spirits is what keeps the soil fertile, the rivers flowing with fish, and provides the strength and wisdom to shoulder and overcome disaster. Small folk have a primary spirit they pay tribute to, though worship to multiple or even all of the Great Spirits is expected. With the vastness of Therenor, there is no set way to commune, and methods change from town to town. As long as worshippers abide by the spirit's core beliefs, their methods don't result in the needless harm or destruction of the realm and its inhabitants, and they are genuine in their practice, the validity of their prayer is secured. When conducting their rituals, small folk pray for many things: the strength to endure hardships, bountiful harvests, financial security, knowledge, the wisdom to adapt to change, and to find their place among the natural processes of the realm, to name a few. Fringe groups of worshippers have developed their own unorthodox ways to pay tribute to the spirits, with some malicious actors even bending or twisting the core beliefs for their own personal agendas. And with that, let's talk about the Great Spirits. Of the 6, none are more renowned than Sultaugr, the Spirit of the Hills, whose domain is associated with growth, hunger, harvest, and the natural food chain. While the Great Expanse and its grand, fertile mounds have been part of Therenor since before the dawn of giants themselves, Sultaugr is often referred to as the youngest of the 6, due to the lack of giant idols, runes, and ritual sites often made for the other spirits. In truth, the simple minds of the hill giants has made the development of a culture a slow, grueling process. Considering the rarity of semi-intelligent hill giant ambassadors, only recently, in the last few thousand years or so, has there been any semblance of consistent hill giant culture. Abstract pictures drawn in mud, massive pits filled with discarded viscera, and even carved idols to Sultaugr, large, relatively smoothened boulders, with face-like features and odd repeating patterns crudely scratched onto their surfaces. Despite the late start, hill giants have always worshipped Sultaugr simply by consuming, their growing bodies a testament to the spirit's power. Along with their role as the Great Expanse's scavengers, they ensure the natural food chain continues on, uninterrupted by disease. For small folk, worship of the Spirit of the Hills not only includes growth of one's self, but growth of the land they cultivate. Sultaugr's fertile soil is perfect for crops and livestock, and worship to the spirit is offered to keep the lands plentiful and to quickly end poor harvests. Fields in Therenor are planted in the shape of the spirit's symbol, and the upkeep of tilling the soil, tending to livestock, and harvesting their crops are in themselves a show of worship by the realm's farmers. To prevent nutrient depletion, crops are planted in rows adjacent to the previous year, like alternating bones in a massive rib cage. Beneath the hills, one can find massive mess halls dedicated to Sultaugr, where fresh grains, hearty vegetables, and fatty meats are cooked by clerics of Sultaugr into blessed foods for wandering travelers. These same clerics will also leave the hills, packed with dozens of pre-blessed meals and an assortment of rare and exotic seasonings for impromptu rituals. These meals are intended to spread the bounty of Sultaugr, nourishing the growth of any who wish to partake in the surplus of the realm. In recent years, the teachings of Sultaugr have been warped into a cruel mockery by a truly detestable being, Brock, the Hill Giant King, a sinisterly intelligent hemomancer convinced he is a herald of the great spirit of the plains. Brock stalks the realm, his goal to consume all life in an ultimate tribute to the spirit of harvest. With a pack of hungry hill giants under his command, Brock raises entire villages, feasting on their inhabitants to satiate his taste for flesh, or capturing them, using his magic to morph them into ravenous worshippers of Sultaugr through blood rituals. If you'd like to learn more about Brock and his influence on the realm of Therenor, you could check out his video here. Therenor's history is ripe with realm-shifting events, yet through the floods and fires of chaos and uncertainty, the mountain spirit still stands. Our next deity, Tilde, Great Spirit of the Mountains, is the embodiment of resilience and stability. From the realm's millennia-old titan trees to the ancient ecosystems deep below Therenor's surface, Tilde's presence is everywhere, the spirit's endurance permeating the realm. Worshippers of Tilde yearn for this strength, celebrating both the concept of embracing and overcoming hardship, pain, and the erosion of time. Those who follow the great mountain spirit are taught that the world and its trials are tests of their faith, ones that should be faced with courage and enthusiasm, and that through their inner strength and force of will they will endure. Worshippers of Tilde place little value on currency and luxurious material possessions, believing that relying on the comforts of modern living weaken their connection to the spirit. For these worshippers, they may choose to live in humble homes or huts, though the more devout of them may even wander the realm as nomads. A sizable portion of Tilde's most devout worshippers are druids, having given up their possessions ages ago to pursue a life among the woods. Tilde does not have any temples or monasteries for worship. Instead, scattered around the realm's peaks are shrines, tiny religious sites comprised of stacked stones and carved rock, often in precarious, hard-to-reach areas. The voyage to these worship sites is in itself worship. Traversing steep cliff faces and pushing oneself to their limits exercises both the body and soul, and brings worshippers closer to their mountain spirit. Exercise is another important aspect of Tilde worship, and ensuring the body is in peak condition is crucial. While some Tilde followers may interpret this as limiting the consumption of debilitating food and drink and ensuring they exercise regularly, a cleric of Tilde might take this an extra step further. Clerics spend many hours a day meditating and training their physical form, some even fitting themselves with stone or metal weights around their shoulders, wrists, and ankles to further push themselves, all the while seeking out opportunities to gauge their fortitude. This often leads to Tilde worshippers readily accepting contracted labor as field workers, deckhands, or even mercenaries, as long as they're given a meal, a place to rest, and an opportunity to prove their strength. But for all of their greatness, even the mountain spirit knows that there will come a time when even they crumble. Tilde worship is both the withstanding of the blow and the graceful acceptance of when things finally shatter. The most famous worshippers of Tilde are the stone giants, whose tireless bodies would sooner collapse than cease protection of their mountains. Idols of Tilde are often carved in the likeness of stone giants local to the region, placed around homes to ward off chaos and instability, and to act as a reminder of one's strength within. The journey one takes on their pursuit of strength crosses many paths. As one welcomes new challenges, it's important to remain vigilant. Not everyone you meet will have the best of intentions. The Souls of Stone, a small religious order with locations in some of Therenor's largest cities, claims to help those disconnected from the realm find Tilde's strength. New members are welcomed and placed on a specialized regimen, utilizing poisoned food and drink, keeping them in a weakened, sedated state under the guise of strengthening their body. And over the course of many months, they are stripped of their material possessions. The Souls of Stone have garnered notoriety for their bastardization of Tilde's principles, though the Order still has hundreds of members across Therenor. While Tilde is the strengthening of the body, Skond, Great Spirit of the Tundras, is the strengthening of the mind. Worshipped as a spirit of preservation and knowledge, Skond is crucial to the transference of oral history, skills, and time-tested traditions. For smallfolk, the teachings of Skond are rooted in nearly every aspect of life. Just as a bear teaches her cub to forage, children learn from their parents how to fish and hunt, the master shares the tricks of their trade with an apprentice, and adventurers regale taverns with their stories of valor. In all of these situations, Skond oversees the transfer of knowledge, ensuring the existence of sacred stories, skills, and cultures. Artifacts of Skond are many and varied, from a 300-year-old ceremonial cloak to a father's lucky hammer. Any object or tool which has invoked learning can be considered a relic of the great tundra spirit. Frost giants instinctually worship Skond through the acquisition and filing of ancient items, uncovering what was once forgotten, buried beneath the ice, and breathing new life into it. By releasing these relics from their frozen tombs, frost giants allow these fragments of history another chance to share their stories, impart their wisdom, and inspire the realm. More devout worshippers of Skond tend to favor different ways of storing knowledge. The Hands of Skond, those who place heavy value on the preservation of the written word, are known for their vows of silence, conversing only through practiced calligraphy. Any interaction, be it a conversation, a lesson, or a debate, is archived in one of the many tomes and journals kept on the scholar's person, ready to be referenced at a moment's notice. On the other end are the Mouths of Skond, scholars who possess vast minds capable of absorbing centuries of poems, stories, and eyewitness accounts to historical events, down to the cadence of its initial telling. These worshippers tend to have multiple practicing mouths under their watch, who strive to imitate their master's skill. The Hands of Skond argue that the mind is not perfect, and by archiving everything, one may never truly forget a historic moment, while the Mouths of Skond argue that writing down stories and poems robs the listener of the true way it was meant to be heard. These two branches of Skond worshippers can debate for days, referencing past arguments decades old and filling entire journals with rebuttals. It's considered quite an honor to observe. While Skond has no designated temples or monasteries, places where immense knowledge is stored, shared, and expressed are often a suitable replacement. Grand dwarven forges, city harbors, the towers of renowned wizards, and great libraries are common places to gather. Worshippers travel to these locations, along with a relic, toolkit, or burning question in their mind, prepared to inform, demonstrate, and debate fellow Skond worshippers. Topics range greatly, from sewing tips to thought-provoking debates about the role of the spirits in Therenor. The end goal of these meetups is to leave having learned something new. Not all worshippers of Skond pursue the goal of knowledge through noble means. For a brief moment of time not too long ago in Therenor's past, Skond worship was considered taboo, not for its ideals but for the company it attracted. Harthag Grimbraid, bastard son of a dwarven giant hunter and self-proclaimed scholar of Skond, was a half-frost giant warlord who understood the power of knowledge. During his 40-year grasp on the realm, he and his followers besieged countless towns, not for gold, but for their resident artisans, bakers, smiths, and scholars, intent on establishing the realm's largest living amassment of mines. For many years, the small folk of Therenor were hesitant to pursue a greater understanding of the world, out of fear they may one day be snatched from their beds. Goods were crafted and traded anonymously, Family businesses and traditions were lost, books were burned, and the realm was plunged into a period of cultural death which would last for years after Grimbraid's downfall. Though this time of turmoil has passed, it's left its mark on Therenor's history, becoming a much discussed topic among Skond worshippers about the dangers of fanaticism. Therenor's harsh climates are a challenge for creatures both big and small. To truly thrive, one must understand how to best utilize its natural wonders. Worshipped as a spirit of resourcefulness, ingenuity, and compassion, the blessing of Ignelyn, Great Spirit of the Dunes, is all but required in some of Therenor's more extreme environments. Ignelyn is the understanding that the realm is ripe with potential, that it can be taken and lovingly molded to fit the needs of the individual. Whether it's the fluttering of wings as a pair of birds build their first nest, or the blasting of a furnace curing another batch of bricks, familiarizing oneself with the teachings of Ignelyn and how to respectfully utilize the realm's bounties is what has allowed many of Therenor's creatures to thrive, and furthers the advancement of smallfolk civilization. One of the most impressive feats of Ignelyn worship has been speculated to reside in Galuskandr, a blazing desert of bright red sands and ever-shifting dunes, nestled between two of the realm's most prominent mountain chains. It's a city of ceramic and iron, deep in the desert, crafted by beings who could bend the sands to their will. These beings are fire giants, well-versed in Ignelyn's teachings from birth, capable of extracting iron from the sands around them and smelting it within their fists. They have sculpted the dunes to their liking, forging themselves armor, weaponry, but most importantly, a home. Their city, Ilderheim, rests hidden in an oasis, where the giants thrive off gardens made from the native flora, utilize the oasis's fauna as beasts of burden, and spend their days forging tools and trinkets of the highest quality. They take only what they need and share what they have, finding solitude in one another in one of the most inhospitable places in all of the realm. Of course, it's not just giants who worship the spirit of the dunes. Abandoned here millennia ago by their arboreal relatives, the Sundalves have learned to extract as much potential from their environment as they possibly can, scavenging chitinous plates and cultivating desert silk grubs to create clothing, harvesting oasis roots, fruits, nuts, and native desert fauna for food, and developing a range of potent elixirs and tonics from plant secretions and animal venom for medicinal use. Worship of Ignelyn has ancient roots in Galuskandr, the settlements which were once hubs of worship having since been engulfed by its ever-shifting sands. Outside the desert's entrance lies a complex web of trading posts and caravans, preparing their own voyages into the dunes to predict where these long-lost sites may resurface. While Ignelyn's teachings find much use in the desert, the spirit's ideals have since spread across the realm. One aspect of Ignelyn worship that has resonated the most with smallfolk is its promotion of connectivity. Worshippers of Ignelyn are taught that the world they find themselves in is full of opportunity, and that extends to its people. Companionship is vital to the survival of Therenor's smallfolk, and those who practice make attempts to befriend and inspire all they meet. Their gestures needn't be grand to be impactful. Sharing a meal with a stranger, aiding in a burdensome task, or providing comfort to the distressed are all ways in which Ignelyn encourages their worshippers to strengthen bonds with their peers. The fire giants and the Sundalves are a great example of this. Acts of benevolence on both sides has evolved into a steadfast bond, the giants providing the elves with food and drink, and the elves defending Ilderheim from nocturnal threats as the giants slumber. While a key aspect of Ignelyn's teachings requires one to be respectful to the realm, taking only what they need, some of Therenor's more notable entities disregard this important detail, the most infamous of these being the ruling family of Therenor's trade capital, the port city Sardanis. Worshippers of Ignelyn themselves, Sardanis is a city of commerce. Thousands of farmers under their fealty till the fertile soils of the Great Expanse, growing an abundance of dense vegetables and hardy grains which are sought throughout the realm. The city's fleet of trade ships service the southern half of Therenor, while its hundreds of trade wagons make their months-long voyages to the subterranean mountain dwarves and the elves within the titan trees. A wealth of goods flows through the port city's harbors from all across the realm, many of which are dubious or destructive in their acquisition, yet the city turns a blind eye. The quantity at which Sardanis and these larger cities encourage take from the realm is unsustainable in the long term, and damaging or destroying the natural world can have grave consequences in Therenor. Dragons, the physical manifestation of the realm's anguish, are a chaotic force which emerge from the world's wounds, their arrival resulting in a mass loss of life. As smallfolk civilization continues to advance, dragon sightings have only increased, and many towns have since been ravaged by their elemental fury. We have a video discussing dragons in Therenor in more detail, recounting the first ever dragon to emerge from the heart of the realm, Vlaromerk. While Ignelyn teaches that the realm and its bounties can be changed to fit one's needs, Galuskandr, Great Spirit of the Skies, asks one to look within for their transformations. Worshipped as a spirit of adaptability and change, Galuskandr worshippers know the most effective way to survive in the wilds is to open oneself to new ideas. Just as an insect goes through metamorphosis, worshippers of the Sky Spirit view life broken into many stages, each requiring a mind open to change to navigate it. There can be as little or as many stages in one's life as they choose, whether reserved for life-defining moments such as the birth of a child, or simply entering a new town or region. The purpose is to reevaluate one's current position and find ways they may adjust themselves to best suit the next stage of life they're entering. How drastic of a change is also up to choice, with more devout worshippers of Galuskandr choosing to redefine themselves readily. Relics of Galuskandr were shaped out of copper, its bright surface dulling to a vibrant greenish blue as a patina's. Trinkets and jewelry worn by worshippers also featured pleochroic gemstones, minerals that change color based on the angle you view them, such as alexandrite, tourmaline, and topaz. Galuskandr has no designated place of worship. Instead, wandering clerics are treated as mobile shrines, conducting rituals and rites as they travel. Galuskandr clerics are often gaudy and eccentric, submitting to their instinctual wants, developing ever-changing mannerisms, and freely flowing from place to place with ease. Clerics of Galuskandr may constantly find new pieces of clothing and jewelry to adorn themselves with as they travel, their appearances shifting throughout the day. They may mimic the speech patterns of those they converse with and act sporadically to environmental stimulus, believing every gut reaction as Galuskandr looking to invoke change within them. Even if a Galuskandr worshipper wasn't readily changing themselves, they still looked up to and idolized figures who were capable of inspiring change in others. Such individuals were rare and deserving of praise, believed to be avatars of the Great Sky Spirit. Clerics of Galuskandr regularly have worshippers in tow, who follow them as they traverse the realms. Cloud giants in Therenor are astutely aware of the benefits of adapting to their environment. With how integral their deals with smallfolk and other giants are to their way of life, cloud giants assess every detail before settling on an identity to create. Whenever they molt, which occurs twice a year, they freely make whatever adjustments are necessary, sometimes even shaping their malleable bodies into an entirely different personality. Of course, even Galuskandr's message of remaining open to change can be misconstrued for more nefarious purposes. A select few worshippers of Galuskandr place less emphasis on how they themselves adapt to life, and more on how others may not be adapting fast enough. Through the guise of survival of the fittest, these worshippers can justify their cruel or unfair treatment of others as a means of proving they are unfit for the unique struggles of life in Therenor. Other Galuskandr worshippers may develop cult-like followings around individuals who inspire negative change across the realm. Common candidates for these followings are notorious cloud giants, dragons, and more recently, the hill giant king, Brock. Our final spirit leads us to one of the most turbulent environments in all of Therenor, its coast. The smallfolk that reside here rely on the ocean, its endless bounties feeding entire nations, though everything they've built can just as quickly crumble under its oppressive waves. Living here is a world of extremes, each day survival or annihilation, and it is ruled by Sjobarden, Great Spirit of the Sea and Storms. Our latest video had a lot to say about Sjobarden worship. Sjobarden is a deity heavily associated with destruction and renewal, a crucial aspect of life in the realm. The spirit's waters rejuvenate the soil and encourage growth, yet they could just as easily erode even the grandest of mountains. Sjobarden is both the beginning and the end, and their worshippers are taught the importance of this everlasting cycle of life. Having experienced the wrath of the sea spirit, coastal worshippers of Sjobarden are intensely devout. Many of the rituals they conduct are not done out of love, but more so fearful gratitude. Relics of Sjobarden, carved out of opals, seashells, and other coastal materials, decorate every inch of their homes. Fishermen nail their largest catches to their doors. Extra plates of food are made at supper just to be returned to the sea, and all windows in the house are opened at dawn to let the spirit in on the breeze. Once a year, coastal cities even construct a new trade ship, loading it with goods and sacrificing it to the waves, all as a show of thanks for the bounty Sjobarden provides. More mainland worshippers of Sjobarden generally pray to the spirit after major events, hoping their life-bringing waters return the realm back to the bountiful state it was once in. While many worshippers conduct these rituals to stave the spirit's wrath, a big part of Sjobarden worship is truly understanding that renewal without destruction is unbalanced. The fates are predetermined, and the purpose of worship should not be to prolong the inevitable, but to familiarize oneself with it, embracing whatever comes next. Becoming comfortable with death is a journey which takes most their whole lives, even for the small folk who worship and live so close to such a destructive force. Storm giants, whose existence is highly speculated in Therenor, are often considered avatars of Sjobarden, appearing as massive cyclones which ravage the shoreline for weeks at a time. In truth, within each storm are two bonded jelly-like beings, and their routine of drifting towards the coast is not to destroy, but to create, releasing hundreds of thousands of spawn which fuel Therenor's coastal ecosystem. The most devout of worshippers are the salt priests of Sjobarden, beings who have been struck by the electrifying touch of a storm giant and lived. They reside in the salt temples, religious sites built in Sjobarden's name that line the southwestern end of Therenor. These priests have fully come to terms with their place in the cycle of death and rebirth, guiding distressed souls with their soothing auras. Clerics of Sjobarden very well may be salt priests, or have at least made numerous visits to these priests themselves, but nonetheless they have learned to accept whatever plans the realm has for them. These clerics are fully aware of the interconnectedness of all life in Therenor, and are deeply in tune with themselves, capable of even sensing the emotions of others around them. Sjobarden clerics officiate the sacred rituals for all the births and deaths in their community, guiding generations of their peers through Sjobarden's cycle. As impartial as the cycle of destruction and renewal is, some small folk in the realm still claim through worship they can change the flow of fate. Fringe groups of Sjobarden worshippers look at the state of the realm with disdain, believing small folk have strayed too far from the Therenor they were born into so many ages ago. These groups believe the realm needs a reset, some cataclysmic force of turmoil to wreck the world so it may rise again from the ashes. Vlaromerk the Putrefier, the realm's first dragon and the scourge of ancient small folk, is often a figure invoked as the bringer of this change. Though his death was thousands of years in the past, these stray Sjobarden worshippers still pay tribute to his legacy, hoping he one day re-emerges from the realm's soil and brings the end of the world as we know it. And that's religion in Therenor. If you made it this far, thank you for enjoying our work. If you want to keep the discussion going about the realm, you should check out our world-building server, where other members share art, writing pieces, and their own world ideas. Thanks again, and see you next time.